Krishna Prabhu, my Krishna.
Go French.
I heard a lot of things about you. When I was coming, I spoke to Guru Maharaj, and he said you're gonna have a lot of fun because they are fired up, and he said it's like an aftermath of a hurricane. You know, when a hurricane comes, and then after you go and see how many houses went down and like that, you know. But Guru Maharaj is like a spiritual hurricane. So many people are the other way, are uplifted and fired up and enthusiastic. We have been hearing so many good news from London in general, but also particularly from East London. I heard Maharaja Prabhu also said, "Oh, they're fired up and this and that." He was telling me so many things. So we went to get blessings from Guru Maharaj before coming. Okay, so the topic today is for you to know a little bit more about Guru Maharaj. I'm sure that all of you, or some of you, or most of you, have very strong realizations and will be nice. But of course, time and the sun, you know, they play tricks. So we think it's early, but actually, you know, we don't have that much time. But I'm sure that many of you have this realization of the specialness of Guru Maharaj. Sometimes just a word or a few words, or something that you see, or something that he says in the class, sometimes in dreams. And well, you don't have to be too esoteric to know or to understand his greatness. He has been serving, he's the longest serving sannyasi and guru in ISKCON. So that in itself, it tells a lot. He has been here from the beginning and is still with us despite of so many adventures that he has taken in his life. So I thought a few things that I would like to say about him. Maybe some things that many God brothers and God sisters request me to do is to actually share this, because you don't know what's going to happen. Tomorrow we may not be here, and then you take the memories with you. So some of you would like to hear some of the things that happened many, many years back when we saw him in South America for the first times, then in Mayapur in the late 80s, 87 or so. And then many little things that generally come up. Like when we travel, we do present things. He's the minister of congregational development in ISKCON. So, you know, Chaitanya's Mahaprabhu's pastimes and Prabhupada's mission and congregational preaching, Mayapur itself, you know, you cannot separate from Guru Maharaj. You talk about Guru Maharaj, you read about him, and all these things generally come up, because that's his life and soul. For example, this book was produced around, it's produced in 2010. And at that time, 2009, after the stroke, he had the stroke in October 2008. So he was recommended, strongly recommended by all doctors and therapists in the GBC itself to please dedicate himself to do therapies so he can somewhat recover, rehabilitate from this fatal stroke. But it was a miracle that he survived. 92% of people that suffers that type of stroke die. That's the scientists, the neurologists. So he survived. Once again, you know, he survived. Anyway, so he went to Los Angeles to one place called High Hopes. And they had these robotic things, machines and things like that to help him to get balance and mobility of his limbs and speech therapy, etc. Anyway, he had to stay there for 6 months, which is literally a torture for him. You know, the Goswamis, they stay 3 days in each tree, like that. Guru Maharaj is like that. He's a Goswami, ultra modern Goswami of Srila Prabhupada's army. So he hardly stays 3 days. Now he stays a little longer because doctors say that it's too much stress on his body to travel too soon. But I don't know, some of you have seen him. When he comes, he moves constantly, 2-3 days, and then he goes somewhere else. And then he's in one country. He tells the good doctors, doctor, he has his head doctor in Delhi. And he says, I'm just going to America. So doctor says, okay, no problem. You go to America, Swamiji, Guruji, and you take good rest. But what the doctor doesn't know, that generally we have to tell him after he meets Guru Maharaj, is that we say, doctor, Guru Maharaj goes, and then he arrives in Washington, and then he goes to LA, he wants to go to San Diego, and he wants to go to Laguna Beach, and he stays in one place, and he says, why don't we go to this place, and why don't we go to that place? He's like that. And when he stays in one city, then he goes and takes lunch somewhere, and he visits somebody, and he goes to one temple, go to a center, go to somebody's house. Like, he's like that. That's his nature. He's very giving and he's very mobile. Despite his condition, he's without any doubt the most traveling, fast traveler preacher in ISKCON. So there are people that may be half his age and double his capacity, physically perhaps, at this point. But still, he's the one who travels the most. So he's a Superman in many ways. But I wanted to recall a little pastime about him because it is inconceivable. The Shastra says that it's impossible to really understand the mind of a Vaishnava. And the higher the Vaishnava, the harder to understand him or her. So in the case of Guru Maharaj, he was there for 6 months in Los Angeles. Very restricted. He had to go pretty much daily basis and all sorts of therapies. And he was feeling very, very constrained. Right? So at night he started to give classes on Skype on Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Some days will be about Prabhupada's pastimes. And then I received a call from him telling us that he wanted to finish this book, Godruma Kalpatavi. It's a book that he had been commenting on the instructions of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, right? So he says, I have time now. Generally, the problem is that I don't have time, but now I have time. I'm here doing therapies, and I'm not doing much according to him, but he's going, traveling, preaching, devotees coming, seeing all-time Prabhupada disciples coming and visiting him. And he said, I have time now. Now is the time to finish. So we started a little, pastime for him, where he will record some of these commentaries, and he will send us that material. So I will hear and I will transcribe, and then I will ask him questions again, like that. And then he'll say, write about this, research about that, include this, like that. Very, very focused, very sharp. And still, sometimes in my computer, I find some recordings and some things that he has sent, where he's chastising me. Why you're doing like this? I'm not telling you to do this. I'm telling you to do that. So I'm thinking he's there recuperating his health. When somebody's recuperating or rehabilitating or convalescing in hospital, you feel pity for the person, right? Because the person is in pain. Some water. And you feel like condescending. But okay, this is Guru Maharaj. And he wouldn't let me 1 inch. Even sometimes I can reveal now. Are you filming? So I can reveal now. Sometimes I was thinking, this is just too much. The book is pretty much ready. And Guru Maharaj is very, very particular and specific about doing things properly. If some of you have had the opportunity to serve him closely, cook for him, or organize something, when you do wrong, he will tell you, right? I mean, I know that you all are very expert cooks, but I remember in South America when we just started serving him, he will grade the chapatis, right? So he'll go from 1 to 10 or so. So he will go like 4.5. So it goes back. If it's not 7, it had to go back to the kitchen. And he will explain, oh, it's because this is not doughed properly, or this is not moist properly. It's very, very specific. So anyway, we were working on this book. For me, it was very nectarian because, every day at different times, because I was in Australia, he was in America, so I guess 10 hours difference or so. So I would wake up, and the first thing I'll go to my email or so is to find his recordings that devotees will send. Sometimes notes. The secretaries will say, oh, Guru Maharaj liked this part, but he said, why Ikshvaku is doing like this? Why like that? So I felt like a little puppy, that was just going, and, like the puppies, sometimes they like to play. Devotees are not meant to have much puppies, but anyway, they throw the ball, yeah? And then the dog runs and gets the ball and brings it back and brings it. So sometimes I will be just fried because it was just difficult. Everything he wanted like this and like that. So that went on for quite some time, several months actually. And I was working really hard to do it even better than what he asked me for. I'll just go the extra mile like that. And finally we did it. So it was completed. And I didn't hear anything, and I was waiting, like a child waiting to be congratulated or something, out of false ego. And then he sent a message. He says, thank you very much for this service. It's actually very important for me, very important for the parampara, very important for our ISKCON society. This, not me, of course, my ego is always there, but I could see two things. One, that he's very personal. He's very grateful, but no one, I don't know anybody so grateful in my life. Nobody has been that, how can we say, nice to me. That's my experience personally. And at the same time, so deep, because whatever he does in terms of service, it has a very, very deep purpose. And, for him, fulfill Srila Prabhupada's mission, it's his life and soul. There's nothing else. And that's what he says now. And if you're in WhatsApp, no, the JSS UK, yeah, that's your WhatsApp group. Many times you see things that he said, and many of those transcriptions are from the 1980s. You see, 1980, 81, 83. And I told the devotees in archives, why all the 80s? Why don't you do something also? But he says, no, because we are going, and then we want to share chronologically, so everybody gets those transcriptions. So Guru Maharaj, always very deep, very personal, very grateful. But at the same time, I remember once, a couple of years ago, I asked Ekanath, Ekanath Gaura Prabhu? He's our buddy from South America, Latin God brother. So we used to serve together sometimes. And he came to Australia for Guru Maharaj retreat in January 2014, I believe. So we went, the retreat place was next to the beach. So right there, So we went for a swim. And we swam, and we were floating away. And then I asked him, I said, Prabhu, how come you have served Guru Maharaj for so many years? For so long? Because I served him. I don't know exactly how many years, but Maharaja, Prabhu, and Ekanath, they have been serving for, I don't know, 15 years or so. I don't know how they have lasted so long, physically, mentally. This is just like incredible. So I asked him, Prabhu, how is it that you have for so long served Guru Maharaj? And he said, very simply, and he didn't think even much. He said, because Guru Maharaj is fun. Because Guru Maharaj is fun to be with. Because everything is so exciting. Everything is so adventurous. Right? Everything. he just takes it on, right? So if I think back of many of the memories from the early days, I'm talking since I met him in the early 80s, and then when I went to live with him in 87, of course, a lot of nectar, a lot of insight, but a lot of fun. Guru Maharaj makes Krishna consciousness very much fun. He tries to make it very easy and very lively, very beneficial for people. That's his mood, you know. At the same time, if you happen to be in Mayapur, sometimes when you go and visit, some nights he has darshan with the brahmacharis, Namahata preachers, Sankirtan devotees, the brahmacharis. So it's an ocean, right? Small ocean of orange people. So they are all with him some nights, special darshan, just brahmacharis. So packed, 200, 300, like that. Sometimes in Namahata, 400 preachers, all brahmacharis, and you can tell that he's being a Pakka brahmachari, sannyasi. We have to be strict. I don't understand much Bengali, but I do catch some, And you can tell his mood, very serious, very fixed, very brahmachari-like. But then you see him with us, Grihastas, when the Matajis come. He's like a father. He's like a great grandfather. He's like a, Santa Claus, like coming with the gifts and, right? I have seen some of you, your faces are very familiar. You bring deities and you want the deities to be named. And we the servants, we're thinking, please, let him go to sleep. He hasn't taken his medicines, chant his gratitude, put his oxygen, please. But he put a break in his wheelchair, and he's like, he sends us away. And so many times, give a name to a child. We're thinking, just Google something. Ask the local astrologer or something. But no, he stays there and he really thinks. He looks at the deities. Where do you get them from? Who's going to worship them? What standard are you going to... We're pulling our hairs and we're thinking, Guru Maharaj, just... So he has this rasa. So, my initial service with him started when I was I'm still neophyte, I was just in orange, that's the difference. Very neophyte, very new, naive brahmachari. And, but somehow there's a pastime, I tell a pastime. Because for me, one thing that shocked me very much is how similar Guru Maharaj is to Srila Prabhupada. This is something that I cannot understand till today. There was this pastime where Srila Prabhupada's first servants were being trained. Right? He was in New York, as you know, San Francisco, Los Angeles, that area, before he took off to Canada and London, like that. So this is the late 60s. So Trivikram Maharaj, now Maharaj, was Trivikram Prabhu at that time. He was serving Srila Prabhupada for a few days. I think it was in San Francisco. And after those few days, Prabhupada was meant to travel, go somewhere. I forgot where. And Tamal Krishna Maharaj, also an early devotee at that time, but already a leader and already a strong servant, secretary of Srila Prabhupada, had arranged to replace Trivikram Maharaj by another new devotee. I believe it was Upendra. And so Trivikram Maharaj heard that he has been replaced, and his heart was broken. Because he thought, now I'm a servant of Prabhupada, and now I have the opportunity to travel with him and to be with him, and he just was totally in bliss. But then he overheard that he has been replaced. So he couldn't sleep, he was in anxiety. The next morning, they were in Prabhupada's room packing everything. And Prabhupada said, so who's coming with us? And then Tamal Krishna Maharaj says, this one, that one. He named the 3-4 devotees. And then he said, at the last listing of the names of the devotees who were traveling with Prabhupada, he said, and Upendra Das as your new servant. So, Prabhupada knew, and then he looked at Trivikram Maharaj and he said, he wasn't Swami then, but he said, no one like Trivikram. Right? So I heard this in 89 in Kartik in Vrindavan. They used to do 24-hour Prabhupada Katha. And all those, Bhakti Vinga Govinda Maharaj wasn't a sannyasi then. Bhakti Vikash Maharaj wasn't a sannyasi then. All of them were telling their early pastimes with Prabhupada. It was amazing. So I heard this pastime. And then with the years, I realized that Guru Maharaj is exactly like that. He knows what to tell, whom to tell, when, etc. How. If many devotees come to Mayapur, and then they say that, oh, Guru Maharaj had so many disciples. You've been to Vyasa Puja, I was being in Vyasa Puja in Mayapur. Yes, Prabhus, you were there? Crowded, thousands of devotees. It's mathematically impossible, if many disciples want to see their leaders, etc., that you see him, right? Like physically impossible, time-wise, and you may think, who am I to go and bother him? But we all want to see him. But my mantra always is, Prabhu, if you really want to see him, believe me, you will see him. And so many miracles I have heard and seen, that he's coming, and the Mate is coming right, close to the elevator, the lift, or coming from, the temple, and he's just coming right there. So many things. Because that's what he wants. He wants to give to others. That's his nature, his mood. So, I don't want to lose track because there are so many things. But I was trying to say is that my initial days with him changed from being very new devotee, very new servant, very ignorant, as a matter of fact. He said it. He said that many times. You're some ignorant, uncultured aborigine from the jungles of South America. He told me many times. And sometimes my ego was hurt. One day we were in Bangkok and we had rented a new house near the university. We wanted to preach there. So I said, there was one room that had air conditioning. So we didn't sleep in that room because we were reserving it for him. Nowadays I would just go and use the AC room. But in those days, I guess that we were more humble, I guess. So we never, used that room, the bathroom, everything was for Guru Maharaj. So Guru Maharaj came, and then we had cleaned the place, and then he was going to use it. And then he said, do you know the Vishnu Sahasranam? And I think I knew. Anybody knows here? I just, how's it start? Sahasra Sirsha Purusha. Yeah. So I know just the first line. So I said Sahasra Sirsha Purusha, and I tried to cheat him. I tried to trick him. Like if I know, yes, Guru Maharaj, Sahasra Sirsha Purusha. And Guru Maharaj, and then he told me, you coming from the jungles of South America. And I wanted to argue. I wanted to say, why should I know? We're not told that we are meant to know this. But I didn't argue. I just said, you should know all these things. You should know all these things. So he tamed me, I think, from those days until now. But I remember in those days, he was, the relationship changed. My point, or what I'm trying to share, is that for some of you are aspiring and sheltered And even some devotees were telling me, oh, I see how some senior disciples, they relate to him. Some come almost casually and massage and touch his feet, and sometimes come his sika or something. They're more familiar. And then, we are newer, and we feel like in awe that, this great personality and like that. So I was thinking of this, and we were discussing this. What do you call it? Transition from being like that, and now by His mercy, not any advancement, but by His mercy, He allows us to do a little bit more familiar service like that. For example, I was in Calcutta last year for the Ratha Yatra. So we had come because we had to discuss some serious matter with him regarding CDM and other things in Mayapur and his personal services. So GuruMaharaj was resting in one hotel. The owner has given us a whole floor for devotees. The Hinduja? No, the hospital, the hotel in Calcutta, right? Hinduja or something like that. The Hindustan, I think, the Hindustan. Anyway, it's very posh, very nice. So I go inside GuruMaharaj's room, and then they're like, oh, GuruMaharaj is taking rest. Okay, so I was just waiting, chanting there. I wanted to see him, really wanted to see him. And then eventually he woke up, and then somebody says, okay, let's come and sit him up and this and that. So I go in. So GuruMaharaj is laying down. And he's with clicker, always with his clicker. Everywhere. The bed, bath, always with the clicker. And he's chanting. So, and they have to put these eye covers for his eyes to protect. So he opens his little and says, Ikshvaku. I said, yes, GuruMaharaj. And I was kneeling on the bed next to him. I came close to him. So he was laying like this, and then he put his arm like this, right? And then I grabbed his hand, right? And then he was arm wrestling me. And he says, you're getting old. He's poking me like this. So you're getting old. He says, you're getting old, but you're trying to act like a child. You think you're too strong. And then he was like, he's like very jolly, very playful, all the time. So anyway, the transition, I was talking about the transition, how he knows how to make you feel special. That's the thing. Like a good trainer. The trainers, they get the monkeys or the seals or even the lions, he makes you, even elephants, they, in one, food, or to do this or to do like that. So many times he did that. In Ecuador, I was one of the few local devotees, meaning I was one of the few Ecuadorian devotees. Many of the others were were foreigners, right? They were from Argentina, mostly, from Colombia, from Costa Rica, like that. There were a couple Prabhupada disciples, but everyone was a foreigner. So South America is a little like India, I should say. Everything goes, right? And if some rule is going to be broken, it's okay, you fixed up the police. That's how it works. So conclusion, practically everyone in the temple was illegal. They didn't have visas. But in South America, in those days at least, the borders were a little bit more flexible. You can go around, pay a little bit, and then you stay like that. So when I joined, all of a sudden, I became like a very important devotee. Why? Because I was one of the few legal devotees. So, then we can have a proper bank account. We can register the car in our name. In fact, still we have a land. It's called Nueva Mayapur, and it's in my name because again, I was one of the few who could legally sign like that. So we started with GuruMaharaj in those days, and he corrected me. That's what I was trying to say. In the beginning, he's very much like that. Now, I told him many times, GuruMaharaj, you had changed. In the old days, you used to chastise us. Did I? He would say, yes, GuruMaharaj, you were heavy. You were heavy with us, especially the brahmacharis. And in South America, there are many pastimes like that. Because Latins are known for being a little crazy, and loud, and you know. But anyway, so what I was saying is that in South America, I was taking some responsibility, and I soon became in charge of the little temple that we had, and then we opened another temple and that, and then my name started appearing because I was somewhat committed, and again I was the only one of the few legal persons that could do some paperwork and things like that. Anyway, many years went by, 4 or so years, and I went to Mayapur with him as a brahmachari. So I was serving him, day and night. In those days, he would only have maybe 2 servants, 2 or 3 at the most. Now he has 20, 30, and also because of his condition. But in those days, he would travel alone. I don't know if you were around the time. He would travel alone. And I would say something why things start changing, but so I was serving like that. So one day, he invited these swamis, like 3 or 4 swamis, and he had that habit. And he didn't have a kitchen. He had an open bathroom, pretty much, little shed like that on the roof, and the chapatis had to be cooked. When you go up on the roof where you leave your shoes, that was our makeshift kitchen there, where we will do the chapatis. I mean, the Bengali Prabhu will do the chapatis. I'll just pass it. So when you do chapatis in this kerosene flame, sometimes it becomes burnt, black. So the brahmacharis, we had this habit of hitting it on the chadar. Yeah, I don't know if you do this practice. Yeah, well, maybe the mothers do that. The grandmas they hit it like that. Anyway, so I'll hit it, and then I'll just to take the black and run it and wrap it like that. And just run and put it, and then he'll open it. And he wanted it to be very, very puffy and hot and perfectly cooked. So he'll break it. And he says, if hot air comes, that's perfect. He'll do it like this immediately. He doesn't mind. Swami's there, GVC. And he's doing his little game with us. We're running. GuruMaharaj says, okay. No, it was too hot. Anyway, and also serving the other swamis. So we're, I don't know how many chapatis. So I had in my chadar like that. And so at one point I didn't realize my little chadar, I think I wrapped it here. My chadar and part of my dhoti was all black. All black. I didn't realize. I didn't realize. I was just like in ecstasy. I'm a little Tarzan serving my guru. My dream life has been fulfilled. But before coming to Mayapur, as I said, I'd taken some responsibilities, and we opened restaurants and 3 temples and 1 farm, etc. So in my little ego, right, or big ego, I was thinking I'm somebody. I did something. Yeah. Although it was very quick, very few years, hardly 4 years, but we, and devotees took initiation, and second initiation, and we brought Gaur-Nitai, and we didn't install them. We brought Gaur-Nitai, we brought Radha Krishna, we had Jagannath, like that. So, as I said, I kept that in my little ego box. We all do, I'm sure. Wow, I'm so special. I did this. I'm a good cook. Or I'm a good manager. I'm a good preacher. So anyway, I had it there. I didn't even know I had it. So, almost at the end of the chapati round, GuruMaharaj at one point, and I kneel. That white table? The white table? Exactly the same white table. It's the same one. It's there. So I kneel. Right? GuruMaharaj is eating here. I'm kneeling there. And the swamis are here. So I kneel, waiting for him to see something what it's needed or yeah. And then he looked at me, and then he said, stand up. So I thought, okay, he's gonna send me running or something, So then, the Swami's eating, this and that. He says, with you, the king of Ecuador. And I looked at myself, and literally I felt like a street beggar, like really, and they just looked. I don't know if they laughed. I mean, they didn't really. They felt pity on me because. But I remember that from time to time, you think that you are something, but he knows how to bring you down to your place. So anyway, that's how things started, and it was very, very fun, amazing. The best days of my life, I would say. And I can tell many stories of those days. For example, in '88, I believe. So '87, I was with him traveling around India, South India, North Bengal, Bangladesh, like that. We were going so many little things that I should write or record, but big things. A big flood came. Last year there was flood. We were there. Everything flooded. 1.5 meters water. We're with our boats having fun, and the snakes and all the stories are true. It's not exaggeration. So in '88, a big flood came. And GuruMaharaj has just gone not more than 5 days or so on his international tour. But it happened that he was meant to be in Calcutta for some preaching engagement. So generally when he was going to his international tour, he would go alone in those days, till '89. So we generally stay back, and then we organize everything, clean his clothes, his rooms, everything, So I didn't go with him. He was just meant to go there for 2-3 days and then fly off to his world tour. South America, Europe, etc. But then the flood came. It came all of a sudden. Started raining one day, didn't stop the next day. Then the warning came. They said at 2-3 in the morning, the flood is coming. So, and the flood did come. Exactly 3-4 in the morning. The water was rising. So GuruMaharaj was in Calcutta. He heard the news. He knew that there was a risk that the flood would come. So he stayed back. He canceled his trip, or postponed his trip. And he collected money from some life members, and he got an outboard boat. Still is there somewhere in Mayapur. Not too big, maybe 15 feet, 12 feet, or something like that. Long. What color? Guess. What color? Orange, of course. It's GuruMaharaj. So we didn't know all this. We were just dealing with the flood and moving the Gurukul kids, and the Matais there, and Westerners, trying to get them out. Before there was a zoo in Mayapur, next to the TOBP. In that area where the shops are, there was a whole zoo with deers and peacocks and all that. So all these animals were being taken by Mother Ganga, and they were drowning, and we were like emergency, like running and little boats here and there, and no electricity, and the deities, and all the hustle that comes with the flood. So then we got the word that GuruMaharaj is actually coming, and he's bringing a boat, So that's what we were told one day, that tomorrow GuruMaharaj is coming. So sure enough, around 9 or so, 9 something, we hear the alarm. There's a big alarm in GuruMaharaj, in some of the buildings, Conch, Lotus, and Chakra. And then the alarms go off. Big alarm. So then they're saying, GuruMaharaj is coming. So we run to the long building and go to the roof and go to the end of it so we could see the Ganga. And I'll never forget this image. GuruMaharaj coming with a turban, right? And coming in front of the boat, and a few devotees, 2-3 devotees or more with him, just a handful of them, coming through the Ganga straight into the main gate. There was so much water, straight into the main gate. It's really, really flooded. 88. And I remember, still I have that frame in my mind. Yeah, that is Guru Maharaj. Like the Bhagavatam, at the end of the Bhagavatam, first canto, there's a beautiful verse that says, "Tonna sandarshita datro dishtaram nistitir shatam," that we are grateful that your grace has appeared. The sages of Naimisharani are talking to Sutta Goswami. And we are grateful that your divine grace had appeared to lead us like a captain in this ocean of material existence, of Kali Yuga. So that verse, next to it, it's that photograph of Guru Maharaj, like a boat, the captain. One devotee told me, he says, if ever you write a book on Guru Maharaj, name it the captain of the ship or something like that. I always remember that. So there he was coming in, and then we were like children in a, theme park. We were so happy, so happy. All the brahmacharis were jumping, Guru Maharaj, and running like crazy, just to see him. So we came down, it was you hardly could walk. And amazing, because he's such a great personality, even since day one, I would say. And there he was, Bhaktivedanta Purna Maharaj, the head of the Gurukul, the Pujaris, the twin Pujaris, Ananivas Prabhu and Pankajangir Prabhu, and Matata Prabhu, also from the Gurukul, the head of the Goshala, everyone coming like a big meeting, but in the middle of the water. So he came, and then he came down from the boat, and then he started coming. But believe me, it was for me like a movie. Like if somebody would have given you a script, and he says, okay, you're gonna put your chest up and your chin, how Guru Maharaj, you see the photos and the videos in the old days, it's like that, it's walking up and going right to Radha Madhava. And they came and they were asking him questions, and they were like, and he will ask, so where are the cows, and this, and the elephants, and the boys, and the deities, and what's happening, where are they, and the brahmacharis, and who's here, who's there, medicines, and this, and anti-venom, all these things. And everyone was answering. He was asking questions, and he was answering, and he was asking questions, and people were answering. So it was like in a full-on, and I remember I just came to him, and I was begging in my mind that he pays attention to me. That's my ego. Like, oh, you're here, my great disciple, servant. And I remember still thinking, how can I, please him, but in my egotistical way, I'm a good swimmer, very good swimmer. And I used to compete, and my father used to have outboard, and I was thinking, I can do something for him, I'm useful, But he wouldn't even look at me. He's very expert at that. That he knows when it's your ego, when you're not in the humble consciousness, and then he will just ignore you. And sometimes I have seen even big leaders. I don't want to give too much away, but anyway, one big leader came maybe 3 years ago, 2.5 years ago, and he said, there's a pledge of a few $1 million for the TOVP, and for this and this and that and this and this and that. And I could see that something of that was coming out, I thought. And I thought, how Guru Maharaj will react to this? And he, believe me, turned his head, didn't, like that devotee wasn't there, like he never heard millions of dollars. I hear millions of dollars, I get goosebumps. But he was hearing millions of dollars, and we can help this and we can help that. He didn't say anything. He said to the devotees, get me the Nishingha oil. And I thought, he's going to give him Nishingha oil. But he asked Nishingha oil because some people were taking darshan, and he just wanted to give Nishingha oil and put like this. He didn't pay attention at all of these things. So the point is that he knows what's in the heart of the disciple. Eventually he paid attention, and he says, okay, how can we do this, when the money's going to come? It's very practical too. But I think the devotee got the mood, that the message that the mood had to be fine-tuned. So like that, in that flood, he was very much manifesting his leadership like that. And that's also another thing that I have seen of Guru Maharaj, amazingly, in very difficult circumstances. he takes it up. He says, bring it on. You know, he's the one who goes first. Like when you read in Prabhupada's books about how the king will be the first, that's Guru Maharaj. I mean, not because he's my guru and I'm a fan or fanatical about him, but I have seen him. He goes first. That's what he does. So in that flood I saw, maybe, I mean, I wouldn't say like never before, but very much manifested that quality of him. So I remember that he was walking and I keep begging for his attention. So at one point, like you know, like a bothering dog, eventually you go like, okay, you know. And then he turns and he says, so how are you? Oh, very good, Guru Maharaj. Like, he says, really? Yes, I said, yes, Guru Maharaj, come on, you know, this is water. I'm swimming the whole day in the Ganga. And then he didn't pay attention. Then he kept on walking. He says, let's go and see Radhamana. So we went and he saw there, and it was so nice, you know. First, imagine, like a wonder world, what do you call water world? They have in Australia. They have these theme park in water, you know, water park. I forgot how it's called, water world or something. So, and then Guru Maharaj goes out. People keep following. Some of the leaders are there, and he said, "Okay, I want Gornitai Didis to be on top of the long building, and they should be 24-hour kirtan. They should be worshipped with kirtan. I want kitchens up in the long building, and they should be constantly cooking prasadam. From tomorrow onwards, I'm going to go twice a day in this outboard boat, and I'm going to distribute prasadam to the villagers." And that's it. He turned around and he says, "Okay, now, Bhadra Prabhu, go and arrange the cooking. This one, the pujaris, this and that, bring the didis." And then he sent everybody running. By that time, I think 1 or 2 boys have been bitten with snakes from the Gurukul. So he said, "Okay, we need to bring anti-venom this," and he says, "Get the Westerners out of here." You know, they start getting sick and different things like that. I mean, not that he kicked them out, but whoever was trapped, then you have to arrange for them to, you know, bring buses from the Calcutta temple to pick up the Westerners, the Mataris, get everyone out. I just want the devotees who want to stay and the locals, you know. And anyway, so in no time he organized all this. And he actually went every single day. And there were a few Prabhupada disciples, I won't mention their names, that he invited and to come. And they obliged. They were, you know, they eventually they came, but they were struggling. You know, we were going at night a couple times in the oars. You know, it was an engine boat, but sometimes you cannot because the what do you call, the plants or electric wires or whatever it is. So you have to put the engine up. So you have to use the oars. And sometimes snakes will, you know, a couple times snakes got caught, you know. Guru Maharaj says, "Just flash the light out of their eyes. They're more scared than you. You're such a chicken." I remember there were 2 German devotees. One was Panishwar. He still lives there in Mayapur somewhere. And there was another devotee who was a black belt, an Olympic champion actually, in swimming and in karate or something like that. And then he will tease us both. He said, "You think you're too strong. You think you're too smart. You think you're too young. Look at you, couple of chicken, you know, because of the tiny snake, and you're shivering." We're like, no, Guru Maharaj. And I remember that. But he will have fun, you know. He will literally have fun. He's not like, "Okay, I have to do it. I'm, you know, the director of Mayapur. I have to give example." No, his space was set. He will go with us every single day. And if we will be late or somebody will be a little woozy about going, he will get on people's case. And he invited these Prabhupada disciples. And as I said, you could see they were struggling. They were struggling. Because one of the things that he would do, we both were swimmers, but he wasn't that brahmachari wasn't his disciple. So he would send me. We were going to some street, let's say here, and it's all flooded. And he will say, "Okay, Ikshvaku, jump and see if there's something there." So I happily will go and do my butterfly style backstroke. And Guru Maharaj was like, "This guy," and the Bengalis were looking at me like, what is this guy doing? I was just taking the opportunity to show him. And he even shouted, he says, you can get electrocuted if you're showing. Just go and see if there's the tips of the poles or something like that. It was so much fun, so much fun. One day, I remember we were coming back and we went to a place that was pretty, affected by the flood. And people were on the roofs, right? And these people were on the roofs and the top tree tops, and they didn't have food. And they had kids. So sometimes we'll take, mother, kids, or a few of them and take them and leave them somewhere so they can find their ways to be safe. So we stay there, and he speaks Bengali, so he's talking to them, he's preaching to them. And one thing surprised me, especially in Bengal. I don't know if India is like that. Or it doesn't matter what. There's always something to argue about. Always some politics. And, Bengal was communist for many, many years. Traditionally, right? I think last year they lost office or something like that. And I remember they were there and they would start grabbing our pots, the kitri, gigantic pots. And we were doing, 3 or 4 of those. And they were grabbing out, and then this big guy, big mustache, shouting, rah, rah, rah. And then GuruMaharaj would stand up, rah, argue with him. Like, my understanding was like, we are doing so much for you people, and you give us a hard time. They might have been Muslims or they might have been communists, I don't know. But, but GuruMaharaj, like nothing. Like, that's part of Bengali preaching. You get a little into trouble, no problem. Find the things, Hare Krishna at the end. Hare Krishna, and then you just go. And I'm like, what was that about? Nothing. It's just like, you just have to put a little bit of a spice, and So anyway, we were coming back one of those days. It was kind of intense, Sometimes we will see cows floating and bodies floating like that, And so we're coming late. We had to go a bit further from the normal route. And we were coming back. The engine started sputtering, They will go, something's. They will move it and shake it and pump it and the choke, And then the thing starts, and it goes again. And then again, And then he turns and he says, who's in charge of the engine? I wasn't me. And then Fanisha Prabhu was in charge. He says, did you put oil or did you put petrol or something? He says, GuruMaharaj, I filled it up 3 days ago. His German accent. Did you fill it up this morning or something like that? GuruMaharaj, I put and I calculated. You didn't fill it up. I'm sure it's empty. And then he opened it, and then he opened it. Sure, it was, put some stick or something. It was empty. So we had no petrol. And we were in the middle of the flood. And GuruMaharaj said, okay, get the oars out. So we start oaring. I remember that he put me on one side, and he put the German devotee. The German devotee was a big thing. And we were all like showing off, okay, here we are, Latin, And there's the German, and he's like European. And then he'll whack me on the head. He'll go like, do it properly. That's how you do it. And I was so embarrassed. And the boat started turning. And then at one point, like 2-3 times he did it. He says, you cannot, you're just trying to show your false ego. You're not doing it properly. That's no technique. And I was like upset, So, but this guy is pushing. Instead of going to, he just wants to show off that he's stronger than me. And then he said, that's because he is. You wanted to twist my false ego, Move. And then he came and he says, I was trained in shooting and rowing were my top skills in the military academy that he was. Shooting and rowing. So he had such a good eyesight for it. So he sat there and he says, this is how you do it. And then he will go like, they have a little chant. I don't know if you have seen rowing or something. They go like, hut, hut, and then you go in rhythm, They go like, hut, hut, and they were doing together like this. And put it up and back, up, yeah. That's how you do it. And then he stood up and left me there. My ego was crushed. Anyway, we're doing like, okay. So we start rowing towards Mayapur. And then he He knows so much. One amazing thing is that, believe me, in those days there was no Google, there was no internet. Now we get YouTube, you can know everything. He knows everything. Really, he knows everything. Everywhere he goes, I notice, he knows so much. He's asking you questions, right? Where are you studying? Which company? How is this, that? And he registers that. Next time he goes to another country, he says, oh, because, in London, one devotee told me this about it, and then, he started telling so much. He's like a computer is storing information. So he says, okay, you go against the current. He said something like, you go against the current, and then turn to the, to the right or something like that. That's how you row. Because he's calculating the current is going to take us. So, and I couldn't see anything. We didn't have lights. We didn't have anything. I think we had a little torchlight. So he was just telling us, go this way, go this way. We're like going and going and going. Anyway, finally we made it. We were up the river, so around the Chaitanya Mat, that side. So he says, now we have to cross the river. We have to cross the road. The road was all in water. But I was just rowing. I was rowing on. But to cross the water, cross the road. So, because you see, when there's a flood, as you saw last year, when the Ganga crosses, there's a new current. Because of the force of the water coming over the road. So then you have and then you have rivulets, and you have whirlpools, and like that. So he calculated everything to make us be dragged by Ganga and end up right in Chandrodaya Mandir. Right? But somehow it got us into a inner current or something, and instead of going to the main gate, we end up at the back of the long building. Right? So he says, anyway, we're close. Now it's not too much current, so we are safe. He was saying, because we were freaking out. We were like, what's going to happen? It's GuruMaharaj here, but, so we ended up at the end of the long building, all flooded, imagine, all dark. And we were there. And then we see one light at the end, in one of the last rooms. He says, hey, there's someone there. Because we needed somebody to throw us a rope or something. So one brahmachari is there. And then we were like, Haribo, Haribo. He was chanting his japa, back and forth, back and forth. This is maybe 9:30 at night. And then GuruMaharaj shouts in Bengali, oh, tumi ki chinta karo, tumi ki ache, amar Jayapataka Swami. And then he heard his GuruMaharaj. He couldn't see anything. I'm hallucinating or something. You can see, and he says, Amar GuruMaharaj. We start shouting, And then he starts shouting back, and then we start shouting. And then he says, GuruMaharaj told him in Bengali that go and get some help. We need some ropes. So finally the devotee goes running, and then we hear this shout because on the roof there was 24-hour kirtan. So there was 200 brahmacharis there, brahmacharis and all the devotees singing all night for Gornitai. So they all shouted, Hari all, and they all coming. You can see all coming down to get GuruMaharaj. So finally they throw us a rope, and then we were climbing up the wall, and then eventually got to his room. So he will go in the morning, and then he will go in the afternoon. And then at night, when he will come back around 9 or so, he will eat khichdi. He said, I don't want any special food. I don't want any different food. I'm going to eat this khichdi every day. I was like, GuruMaharaj, but you don't have to, Radha Madhava, it's being fed. And he says, no, you give that to the devotees, you give that to the pujaris. I want khichdi. So every night, he will eat khichdi. Every day and night. That was his. And then he says, I'm going to do chaturmasya. And then he didn't shave. And then we took all clothes. Not the fancy clothes that sometimes he would use, but we got the old clothes. He says, go down, and then we have some old clothes from the old days. Have you seen those photos with Prabhupada? Did you have those silk, very worn out? Like that. I don't know if they were exactly those same ones, but they looked exactly that. So GuruMaharaj, the only difference is that this time was big. In those photos, he's very skinny. But the beard and, the clothes, like that, very sannyasi looking, like a heavy acharya. Anyway, so there were some pastimes like that. And one day we were coming at night. Sri Prahlad, the famous singer? Okay, he was a little boy, I think 12 years old at that time. And that night, Sri Prahlad was there, and I mean, he was just another kid, and he said, "Oh, we want to go with Acharyapad." He used to call him Acharyapad to the temple. He's coming for Sandhya Arti. So we were going, and he had this. What was the brand? Have you seen those lamps that has a glass outside and has it call it shirt inside, like a
Filament.
yeah, what's it called?
Petromax. Petromax.
Petromax, something like that. But this wasn't a
Yeah.
Coleman. Coleman, you know that famous brand?
Yeah.
Coleman. It's a camping lamp. It has like, and he had brought it from America. So he was so particular about those lamps. He says, no, you have to hold it like this because of the shirt, otherwise it'll burn. And if it burns too fast and then it consumes, this is the whole thing. And I was just like, okay, well, GuruMaharaj, what do you want me to do? And then he wanted me to carry it like steady. Because if you move it, then the shirt, what he called it, the shirt, it's a cloth thing that it's a special material.
Mantle, you call mantle?
I don't know, but he told me like that. But anyway, so I was carrying it. So we came down, you know, the water up to here from the Lotus room, Lotus building. Came down and I was coming with him. Then Sri Prahlad came and another boy came. So we entered the room from behind Srila Prabhupada, you know, where Prabhupada is sitting. So we're coming in, the water, as I said, up to here, chest high. We're coming. And then have you seen that painting that it's Prabhupada? I mean, Prabhupada is here. And then on the left-hand side, there's a painting that's Prabhupada walking and there's a building behind. Okay, there was a little mouse in the edge. Little mouse this big. Like, you know, shelter there. So we passed by Prabhupada Vyasasan, and then he turned around and he walks towards Prabhupada and he's paying obeisance like this, you know, standing like this. And then he looked and he saw the mouse. Or I told him, or someone told him. And then he said, look, even a little mouse is taking shelter of Prabhupada. Then we turned around and we were going to Radhamalam. In those days, no Panchatattva. And there were only 4 sakis. No 8 sakis. There were only 4 in those days. And Nishingadev. So we were walking past Srila Prabhupada's pillars in front of him. When we were walking, I saw a snake coming. You know, the snake was coming and coming directly at us. I have a Brahmin theory, I shouldn't swear, but I'm not lying. And I was there with my lamp. So GuruMaharaj, as usual, walking in front. I remember I had the orange t-shirt and a gamsha, and, you know, bright, like always. And the snake kept coming. And nobody said anything, but everybody saw the snake. It was coming and coming and coming. And the snake came right at him. So in my desperation, he told me, take care of this lamp as your life. Because we had burned, a few servants had burned some of that, so he was very upset with that. So in my desperation, I was looking at the thing and at the same time trying to put my hand or my arm in front of him or pushing the thing away. And GuruMaharaj kept walking, the thing kept coming. He didn't or anything like that. He just, when he was like maybe half a meter close to it, he splashed and I also splashed. Right? What I saw is the thing jump out of fear, and what I saw is that it went right to GuruMaharaj. That's what I saw. But maybe it's my imagination or my paranoia, I don't know. So then we splashed, and then we didn't see anything, and then we saw that it was past us. You know, like a meter or so. It passed us. And he kept walking. He didn't say anything. And I just asked, GuruMaharaj, are you right? Yeah. Just, you know, he goes. Anyway, so he's paying obeisance. And a few times, you know, in the CIA, the CIA? You know, the CIA has a policy. The policy is that you can only tell some secrets, or what you call open documents, 25 years after. What do you call? There's a name. Classified. Exactly. Classified information. No? The stamp. So a few times he told me, don't say this. A few times he told me, don't say this, don't tell this. And he told me, secretary means secret, tarry. But you keep secret. And this is one of the times he told me. But I told GuruMaharaj, I'm telling many of your secrets now because it happened more than 25 years ago. So he's like, So, and I said, and then anyway, so he, when he takes darshan, he's in his own world. You have seen it when you take, and he's in another planet. I can tell. So I didn't say anything, but we were going back. I said, GuruMaharaj, I saw the snake jumping at your chest. Come on, you're such a fanatic. It just came around us and we splashed and it went under. I said, GuruMaharaj, I saw it just jump at your chest. And he said, anyway, don't tell anybody. He said that, don't tell anybody. So I kept the secret for many, many years. Last 2 years I've been telling a few things. So anyway, so that was one of the things. A few incidents with snakes, but this was the worst, so I'm not going to tell the other ones. It's just, okay. Anyway, after a couple weeks, the water came down, things got sort of settled, and then he went. And then he went for his tour. That was in 88. In 89, what happened is that we were in Gaur Purnima, and the temple president from Barcelona, I think, Madrid. Now Maharaj, he's Jadu, what's his name? Jadu Maharaj, what's his name? Jadunanda Maharaj from Spain. He was a brahmachari then, a friend of ours, and then he came and invited Guru Maharaj to go to Spain. This is 89, Gaur Purnima time. And then he said yes, and then he called us because he was talking in Spanish. He didn't speak that much English that time. Neither Guru Maharaj, Jayapataka Prabhu didn't speak much English, and Guru Maharaj didn't speak that much Spanish then. Now he can give fluent class in Spanish. Anyway, so we were sort of interpreting, and we were sort of talking to Prabhu at that time. And anyway, so Guru Maharaj says, okay, so I will come to Spain. Months went by, and then he went there, and this is, when was it? August, I think. August, for Krishna Janmashtami. So, do we have time? Should I tell a little pastime? Okay, so, as I said, this is not exaggeration. These are open files now. But I think it's good to know some of these things that he went through. Because he's not just a big devotee who has done so many big services. He has gone through big challenges. And through all of them, he had demonstrated the most Krishna consciousness that you can imagine. What you read in 5th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, you read each verse practically. And all what you need to put is Guru Maharaj's picture. And I'm not saying fanatically that he's the only one. There are many other sannyasis, gurus, preachers, Matajis who have done tremendous sacrifice for Prabhupada. But I can say one thing categorically, that he's one of them. Big time. So what happened in 89 is that still I was with him serving, and my passport was running out. So I went to Thailand, and from Thailand I was going to Hong Kong. So he knew, and so that was the deal, because he also is very economical when he travels. I mean, he tries to, right? And nowadays, because of his needs, they put him in first class, or like that, special circumstances, facilities. But in those days, he will save till the last penny. Still, he's asking how much the tickets here, how much is there. When I come from anywhere I travel, he says, which airline did you go? If you would have paid $100 extra, you would have get the golden card, you would have get the VIP, and then you can do this, and you can call the devotees, they can bring prasad. Say, Guru Maharaj, that's for you, not for me. But he always knows all the tricks of the airlines, of the airports, like that. Anyway, so in those days he was traveling alone. So I had to go to Hong Kong, and he took off to Europe. So when I was in Hong Kong, Purushottaya Maharaj arrived, a Brazilian Maharaj, Swami. And that morning, someone said, I heard that Jayapataka Maharaj had a heart attack. That's what somebody told me. Jayapataka Maharaj had a heart attack. So in those days, again, no internet, no smartphone, no money. We were very, very limited. So this Maharaj was arriving in Hong Kong. So they have appointed me to be his servant because I spoke the language, Portuguese, Spanish, that. And Maharaj practically didn't speak in English. So when he arrived, he said, you heard the news, your Guru Maharaj has been attacked. And I said, no, I heard something, I had a heart attack, but I don't really know what happened exactly. He says, no, this crazy fellow was meant to kill me. But when he saw Jayapataka Maharaj, he went for him. So that's all what he told me. So I ran to Giridhari Swami and I said, Maharaj, I heard, he said, I heard too, let's call Spain right now. So we spoke to Jaunana Prabhu and Hanuman Prabhu and other people. And then they told us that there had been an attack at the airport. And that Guru Maharaj is in coma. And that some of the doctors don't have much hope. But in the usual Guru Maharaj style, always Krishna is there and always something can happen at the last minute. So what happened, the story is that this crazy fellow, like a terrorist kind of guy, not only crazy but trained to kill, he had faked becoming a devotee. Because he said he wanted to target religions, he wanted to kill religious leaders. So he joined the ashram, and he went through the whole thing, slept in the ashram, wake up for Mongol Arctic, this and that, but he was estranged. The devotees saw that he was estranged. So he had this, what they call diver's knife, right? And he had promised to kill, I don't know, a number of gurus. I don't know exactly how many. So Purushotttaya Maharaj was visiting Madrid, and he said, I'm going to take him. So when he was going to the airport, he offered to drive Maharaj. But Maharaj told me I had something, and I said, no, don't. I can go with someone else. And he told the devotee, he seems a little strange. Yeah, Maharaj, he joined some time ago. He's a little funny, but he seems to be sincere. He's there, very disciplined, he's chanting. Okay. Then Guru Maharaj comes, arrived for a day and a half or 2 days flash visit. And then he again offered to take Guru Maharaj to the airport. And some devotee told him, no, you are too young, too new, etc., etc. And somebody else will drive him. But there was one couple. I happened to meet that Mataji many years after, that say, we're going to see Guru Maharaj. She was aspiring for Guru Maharaj. And they were going to the airport, French. And this fellow, he said, okay, can I come with you? So he jumps in the car with them. And that's how he comes, follows Guru Maharaj. And anyway, there's a very detailed, sometimes I don't like, to describe all these things because they're a bit painful. But in essence, what happened is that this fellow came behind him. This is Guru Maharaj telling the story. Because what happens is that after that, I will go back to this, but after that, he was nearly 2 weeks in coma, right? The fellow wanted to decapitate him, and by Krishna's mercy, instinctively, he put his right hand when he saw that something was coming, and then the knife cut from here, and it made a stop. That's his thumb, that he still has his mark here. Cut his thumb, jump again, and went up this way. Okay? So, after all this, we were, imagine, so much in anxiety, all the devotees in Mayapur, in India, around the world, disciples, people, it was just a terrible time. And we didn't have internet. There was no computers like nowadays. So we didn't know. It was phone calls. The devotees, were telling, don't call, just call every 24 hours, because we're calling every 2-3 hours. All the GVC, sannyasis, ISKCON leaders were all worried about him. And they gave the order or the permission to put Guru Maharaj's photo there. I was doing pujari, I was doing different services in Hong Kong. So we were having 24 hours Guru Maharaj's photo in the altar. And we chant Ishni Hadev a few times a day for him. So the whole ISKCON world was praying for his safety. But my point is that, like a normal person that goes through something like this, it's in coma, his neck swollen, like gigantically swollen, amazing. He decides to continue the tour. Instead of going back, there were two options. One is to go back to India to rest. We will take care of him, we were all the servants, the cooks, everything. People from South India, from, different areas that he was preaching at that time, will go and serve him. People from Malaysia, like that, were volunteering to bring brahmacharis and create a whole team to take care of him. Or the other option is to go to America, where also his areas in Atlanta, New Orleans, were a very stronghold of preaching at that time. And he said, no, let's just continue the tour. So instead of coming back, he carries on, after 2 weeks in coma. So, and then he also wanted to pacify his mother, because his mother was alive at that time, so he wanted to see her then, like that. And anyway, when he came back, it was funny. When he came back, I told him, GuruMaharaj, after everything settled, when he returned, one night I was there alone with him, serving him prasadam. And I said, GuruMaharaj, that must have been terrible. I mean, what you went through. But, he has something very peculiar. We all, I am, maybe some of you, very engulfed in your own self. How you look, what's your, you know yourself by heart. Everything, the eyebrow, this one, that one, everything is so much self-conscious. We are, some of us. GuruMaharaj is not like that. And I remember the few times I wanted to dig into it, he never discussed that in detail. Never. Not personally. He will say it sometimes publicly when he was asked. He will give his official version, but never like, oh yes, and this and that. And no, he won't make it, like a big thing. But one night I remember, I told him like that, and I was like very emotional, We almost lost him. And I said, GuruMaharaj, that must have been terrible. Oh, what you went through and this and that. And he said, it wasn't too bad. And I was like, I wasn't too bad. You were 2 weeks in coma. No, but the doctor said I can have plenty of ice cream and yogurt to heal. So the doctors were making ice cream and yogurt, frozen ice, frozen yogurt, all the time. You just, GuruMaharaj, you're just always thinking the positive. But he basically took it so lightly like that, He says, no, he didn't say that privately, but in public, he said, I had very strong realizations on Prabhupada and Radhamadava at that time. And then he tells the story, so I'm going back now to the incident. He said he was, as usual in those days, he will do everything. One time in Ecuador, he lost his flight. And one of those things, side story, one Mati wanted to desperately be initiated. Maybe some of you know her, Ananda Krishna. She's very intense, Mati. And one of those. And she wanted to take initiation from him. But somehow the recommendation didn't come through. There was something like that. So anyway, GuruMaharaj didn't initiate her. He goes off to the airport. So we all go running after him, little buses and cars, taxis, make a big scandal in the airport. And GuruMaharaj loses the flight. And so he wants to talk to the American Airlines general manager. So he goes there and talking, and I was there, and he said, Swami, Mr. Swami, if anytime you need a job, please talk to me. You know more than any of us here in the office. He used to travel in those days when you wanted to know all the airlines and the flights around the world. You travel with like a phone book thing from A to Z. He used to travel with those. Okay, so and anyway, he arranged the flight for the next day or so. Because they're connecting this one and that the other. So he comes out, And he says, arrange fire sacrifice for tonight. That meant Krishna wants me to initiate. He tells me. Yeah. So anyway, going back to the incident, in those days, he will do everything himself. He will do the tickets, he will do the arguing, he will fight for the extra luggage, you know those tricks, You have a very heavy carry-on, and he will say, go and stand there behind that pillar, So, any carry-on? No, this is all what I have, the japa and some little light thing. We'll go there, and then we'll give him the carry-on. And he will carry computer. He started traveling with computer in 88, or I think 88 he started traveling, 88, 89. The computer, and then the printer was invented, or what do you call portable printer. And in Vyasa Puja in 1990, I think, they gave him the first portable printer as a gift, and he was touching it in his hand. He was like, yes, like a trophy. So anyway, so he was doing this, the paperwork in the counter in the airline in Madrid, Spain. And he says that when I was there, I just saw a flash of light, like something like flashed in front of me. And then he said, and time stopped. He said, time stopped. I just instinctively reacted and covered myself like this. And I just felt a cold, what do you call it? Texture, cold instrument. I just felt cold, he said, and I didn't feel pain. Because this was a professional knife for that, for killing, right? And I didn't feel anything. He says, the time stopped. All what I felt is wet from the bleeding at that time. And I saw the lady's face, and she was horrified. And I thought something terrible has just happened. I mean, this is like a millisecond of time. And I thought, he said, I've been attacked. So he touched himself, and he felt his skin flop, So, he says, at that time, I went down in slow motion, right? He collapsed in a slow motion, he says. And I gather enough strength and concentration to pray to Prabhupada. He said, at that point, I thought, I prayed to Prabhupada, I haven't finished my services to you in Mayapur and elsewhere. And then I thought of Radhamadava. I haven't finished my service to Prabhupada. So please, Prabhupada and Radhamadava, if you wish, let me stay so I can finish my services. That was his prayer. Normally what we will pray, Krishna, please help me, let me be alive, do something like that. Don't make me so, I don't know, whatever. But he prayed like that. Let me stay so I can serve, And then he collapsed. And then he doesn't remember anything for 2 weeks. He entered into coma right there in the ambulance, my understanding. And he says, one of those days, he said, Tamal Krishna Maharaj appeared. He tells that, Tamal Krishna Maharaj appears with Shivaram Maharaj. Shivaram Maharaj brought his deities, his Gaurnitai deities. And that's a famous pastime that Guru Maharaj asked Tamal Krishna Maharaj, I have a favor to ask you. And then Tamal Krishna Maharaj says, whatever you ask, Maharaj. I want you to chant my Gayatri thread, my Brahmin thread. Tamal Krishna Maharaj himself tells this pastime. He said, anybody else would have just put a thread. But Guru Maharaj, because they had to cut everything for the operations and all that, so they had to cut the kunti, they had to cut the thread. Guru Maharaj said, I won't wear a Brahmin thread until a Prabhupada disciple, a representative of Prabhupada, chants it again. Right? Because he has the mantra from Prabhupada. So I cannot be so proud to say, I'm just going to chant it because also I got it from Prabhupada. So he waited, and like the way he sees it, Prabhupada sent Tamal Krishna Maharaj, and Tamal Krishna Maharaj says, of course, this So he chanted there in front of Gornitai, and then he was given again. That's a pastime that he tells. So anyway, so he continues, as I said, the tour, and if that wouldn't be enough heroic feat for him, he decides to go South America, because he will always go South America. So the devotees, were waiting for him. You can imagine devotees in South America, very sentimental, very emotional. The stories or the reports were that he will enter, people will faint. The Maharaja, the Prabhu was just like this was like perhaps the strongest religious experience that these devotees had, because South America is very Christian, and we all had this crucifixion and that sort of mood. That's the mood. That's the Sunday feast lecture in the churches like that, So, but for us, we'd never had much of that. Maybe our parents, grandparents. So, but for us, this was our experience. Guru Maharaj almost lost his life, and he came back and he carried on preaching, right? So he goes down to South America and completes his tour, and then he comes back. So there we were, hundreds of us in Calcutta airport, receiving him. And again, also Indian devotees, Bengali devotees. Imagine the super kirtan, so sweet, so nice kirtan. It was amazing. It was really amazing. He comes back just like knowing wheelchair, nothing. Big, and walking and garlands and everything. And then the Prabhupada disciples were there. I think Gopal Krishna Maharaj was there. Banu Swami was there, from what I remember. Harisodi Prabhu was there. Sataranya Prabhu. And many Prabhupada disciples, the pujaris, the twins, were receiving him. He was hugging everybody, touching feet, hugging, and garlands after garlands and things like that. So anyway, we take him back to Mayapur, and some pastimes I remember from that time. There was a big banner, welcome Acharyapad, Jayapataka Swami, one of Srila Prabhupada's favorite son, back to Mayapur. Big banner like that, gigantic, and Acharyapad Ki Jai, this, that, So anyway, he goes, he goes in the temple. You can't imagine the situation. And I remember that they put the Vyasasan and everyone was doing Guru Puja. And devotees were literally wrestling for seeing. I mean, you know when he comes for darshan, right? The Matatis, they're expert wrestlers. The last bit, when he goes back, they just jump. They just throw themselves, And then we, unfortunate servants, we had to push the ladies. The Prabhus are very respectful because the guards can give them, but the ladies, they just jump, And you got all kinds of Bengalis, South Indians, Latins, Russians, everyone wrestling. But I remember that day, and I saw two devotees wrestling, like grabbing each other, because they wanted to, there was so many devotees, so many people, like, it was like a Vyasa Puja day, and everyone was just, and then he was just sitting there, just chanting, like, he was doing his duty, his service as Guru. He was just accepting the worship. So finally we go up, and that was my moment. That was the moment that I was relishing to be again close to him, There were a few of us, many of us, servants like that, from Italy, from Germany, like that. And we were discussing. He said, so, what are you going to do now to protect me? He said like that, And we were all, and then I said, oh no, he said, someone suggested to have killer dogs. And it's true, somebody else suggested that. And then I thought, this is my chance. Guru Maharaj, I used to have Dobermans before joining. I don't know how to train them. He says, oh, shut up. I don't want dogs here, all muchi, I thought, oh, gee. Anyway, he says, some people are saying that I should be training martial arts. And he started playing like, hot, okay, come attack me. So 3 of us were like trying to, But, he was like making fun of something that had meant so much for us, And then he said that you remember that his famous walking stick?
Danda.
Okay.
Yes.
That walking stick came because after that, some special devotee, Indian devotee, came to show him that stick. I don't know the name. There's a name of a fight that you do with the sticks in India.
Yes.
So he came and he
Salam.
trained him, how to do like this and that. So there was a long stick, and then they would, like the what do you call the pole, that, and then I would remember we'll take the pole from the curtains, we take out the curtains, and we'll practice it out. So he knew, he says, he'll put it like this, and then he says, okay, you come and attack me, boom, come here, boom, like 2 or 3, like that, he will do it like that. So that's how the stick came, the stick, and it had to be, you see in the top, it had this thing, at the bottom it had the metal. So he says you can hit like this, and you can swing it and whack somebody like this. So, and then it was funny because, and then he would use that for blessings.
Blessing.
It has double type of blessing. Somebody attacks you, wing it. And, so he knew how to, that's why he always carried after that. So a few resolutions came after that. One, that he wouldn't travel alone anymore. From that day onwards, he started traveling with someone, and then he will carry that stick. I remember once we were in Bangkok after the attack, and there was one devotee, Bengali devotee. He was kind of a leader in the Namahata, but he had never gone out. And we were going to Thailand and Singapore, I think, something like that. So we had to wear karmic clothes, right? So GuruMaharaj, he dressed, like a businessman, with a shirt and the pants and the hat and the fancy sunnies, really swag, nice. And he had a platinum briefcase in those days. So he looked like a proper, American business person. Nobody will bother him. Yeah, sure, you can go. And I tried my best. I was like, my character was a Latin American architecture student, because I still have my things from university. So I was okay. But this fellow, we didn't know what was his character. He had a white hat, he had a vest, he had some tight pants. GuruMaharaj turned around and says, "You look like a drug dealer." He says, "Why don't you stay away? Don't say that we're traveling together. You're supposed to travel to protect me. Some people sees you behind, next to me, will try to pick up a fight with you. Stay away." So, but my point is that although, we were all worried because we thought many other people will want to tag him like that, and then now 1 or 2 people would travel with him. He was always very carefree about it, very carefree. I remember, so on that day, he's coming. He came to the roof and he received Guru Puja, and then there was this Mataji called Didima in the old days in Mayapur, and I believe she was a Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati's disciple also, just like Prabhupada's sister. She was an expert cook. She was the main cook of Radha Madhava's kitchen. Anyway, in her, Bengali way, widow, she's pushing everyone, and everyone knew him. Didima is coming, so everyone's like, and she's like, rough. She comes right next to GuruMaharaj, but with GuruMaharaj she was very respectful. So she comes next to GuruMaharaj, and somebody asking, and then she's telling something, right? She's telling, I couldn't get the whole story, but I noticed that GuruMaharaj, saw, and then he became interested. What's this? She brought this pot. So the story goes that when the attack happened, she will cook for Radha Madhava, but she will do this sweet rice, because it says that Nishingadev likes a particular kheer, sweet rice, very thick. I don't know the details. I'm not a cook, so she went to Nishingadev and she told Nishingadev, you bring back Jayapataka Maharaj, you bring back Acharya, and I will cook this kheer for you, the best kheer ever. but you have to bring him. That is my vow. That is my deal. So she made this thing. And anyway, so Guru Maharaj came. So there she was with the famous kir. We didn't know. We thought it's just, So she comes and she's telling, Guru Maharaj, I told you, I knew you were coming. All in Bengali, no? And Guru Maharaj is just like, and then Guru Maharaj translated, Bhakti-Prasad Swami translated. So he says, Nishingadev has tasted this prashadam, because that was the deal. So if Guru Maharaj came, then she would cook. She says, I want to try. So Guru Maharaj just started taking, and everyone just wanted to try that. But he knows how to. Doesn't matter what situation, doesn't matter what condition. He always knows how to twist things and make it for the better. Maybe some of you or many of you weren't, I don't know, maybe born at that time. I don't know how young you are, but this is one of the things. And then I remember one night, someone had kind of attacked me because I didn't allow him to go and see Guru Maharaj. So grabbed me from the neck and put me against the veranda and said, "Don't mess with the Bengali tiger." And I sort of reacted, I just, and then some people comes, I told him, Prabhu, no one's coming in because Guru Maharaj is in a meeting. And he grabbed me, anyway, so I wanted to, but the devotees came. So I was very disturbed, how a devotee came to this, he was going through some rough times, and when I told him, no, you're not coming in, it was a little rough, I don't know. But anyway, Guru Maharaj heard, So that night when I was serving him, he said, so what happened? And I said, no, he came, and then I sort of wanted to defend myself, but and then he said, he saw that I was very disturbed, and I was, there were maybe 3 or 4 Latins in those days. Then I thought, oh, this is not fair, I better go back, or whatever I was thinking. I was very affected. So, okay, I'm going to tell another secret. No more secret, it's open secret. I'll tell another secret that he told me that night, maybe to encourage me. And he said, I've been attacked a few times. Don't feel so despondent. I've been attacked. So sometimes you have to, it's your karma or something. And then I was like, oh, this is my time. He's going to give me some nectar here. So he said, in the old days, when I was temple president in Calcutta, there was one sannyasi, I'm forbidden to say the name. He's not in ISKCON anymore, but still a sannyasi, but he went. But still, he told me not to say his name. And somehow he said he didn't like me. Guru Maharaj was telling the story. And I was doing my duty, fixing the temple and preaching and all that. Anyway, one day he came shouting at me. And I said, Prabhu, Maharaj, they were both Maharajas. I said, Maharaj, I'm just doing my service to Prabhupada. If you want to complain to the GVC, complain to Prabhupada. What can I do? I'm just doing my service. So he grabbed me. He tells me, he grabbed me and wanted to throw me to the floor or, really pin him down or something. The Guru Maharaj is tall, and this Maharaj is not too tall. Not, shorter, maybe shorter than me. Kind of a stucky. And so Guru Maharaj being as tall as he is, and the other one says the first one was shooting, that he was trained in the military camp. The other one was rowing, and the number 3 was wrestling. So Guru Maharaj is telling me, he said, I instinctively just grab him because he's attacking me, right? He's grabbing me from my uttarya. When I grab him like this, like to, hold him or something, he launches on my arm and he bites me. Oh. He says, you see, still I have the marks. He showed me. I have a little something there. He launched on me and he's biting me. So, no, his arm. So, what I do is and he's about to take a piece out of my arm, and he's like, I'm gonna kill you, so I walk in, poof, and threw him there, So the Maharaj fell, It was self-defense, but and then said, Maharaj, don't do this, and then the devotees hold him. So he said he attacked me like that, and I was very disturbed. So I went to Prabhupada in tears. Prabhupada came after a few days. I went to Prabhupada in tears. Prabhupada, this is like super aparad. I have, hit a sannyasi. And then Prabhupada said, Guru Maharaj was 21 when he took sannyas. This Maharaj also took very early, so they were 20-something. So young boys, kind of. And then he said, Guru Maharaj said, and Prabhupada, very kindly, he said, sannyasis are not meant to fight. Like, it's not normal that sannyasi like wrestle or something. Just promise that you go and touch each other's feet. That's what you have to do. So he told me that. He says, but this is a secret. Don't tell anybody. As I said, 25 years have passed. He defended it was a self-defense. Another night, and they kept telling me, and with that I already was okay. I didn't mind whatever happened. And then he said, one night I was coming when we just building Mayapur, and we used to have the money that Prabhupada sent. In those days, no money bells. The old Prabhupada told them how to do the original money bell. I think it was invented in India. But you get a piece of cloth and you wrap it and you tie it, right? That's the idea. I don't know traditionally, but Prabhupada taught them how to do it like that. So he would put a lot of money, go to Krishnanagar cycling. Those days, no cars or money, so they had to save. So they go cycling to Krishnanagar, buy the trucks of iron, cement, stone, whatever it is, and drive on top of the iron so the truck drivers won't stop on the way and steal stuff. Come back, park the thing, make shifts, make roasters with the other swamis, brahmacharis, or whoever was in Mayapur, and sleep on top of the trucks so people won't come and steal from them. So people, the villagers, they knew that these swamis have money, but they couldn't figure out where. Because they're swats. You see the photos, no pockets, no kurta, just utarias, like that. Very, very simple, sadhu type. So, but then somebody had given the word that they keep the money in the money belts. So they thought that we carry money around all the time, but it wasn't like that. Guru Maharaj is telling me. Only when Prabhupada will give us, and only when we're going by. So one night I'm coming. I don't know where he was going from, but he says, I'm coming at night. I was doing some inquiring somewhere, and I was coming in my bicycle, and I see a group of people comes. And one guy comes with a stick and put it across in the wheel. And then off I went, and I knew I cannot fall, otherwise these guys are going to jump on me. So I tried to, hold myself, and came back, and like 10 or so came. Because I saw people with sticks, and I saw a couple with knives. So I thought, this is it. This is it. They're going to, hurt me, kill me, to take my money, Prabhupada's money. And but I didn't have anything. I said I didn't have. And usual, quite usual in I don't know in India, but in Bengal, it's my experience. Always you have a lawyer. You always have 10 prosecutors and executioners, but you always have a lawyer. That's the good thing, Somebody comes and it's like the wise man, and then somebody comes and says, hey, how can you do this? He's a sadhu, he's coming, doing so much for us, building this, how much business you're going to get, how you're going to be benefited. I mean, this guy was prophetic. Now that many of these people in Mayapur are millionaires because of the land and right. And he said he came, and he saved my day. I mean, that's it. He saved my life. He spoke, and I was just, okay. He said, if they attack me, I know I can take maybe 2 or 3. Okay, and I can run. But these guys are going to get me. And I knew they had sticks, they had knives, they're going to get me. So I thought, this is very bad. So when he spoke, I saw, it's like Krishna, Prabhupada, but I surrender, whatever. And then they all like, oh, Swami, Sadhu, and then he said, okay, and then he showed, I have no money, He said, I thought, because Now this guy saved me. Tomorrow maybe he's not around. So he showed, I have no money, no pockets. No, it's all dakshin that we receive there. So he went. He told me that, and then he said that one time in Bombay, one devotee wanted to take sannyas, right? And Guru Maharaj happened to be there preaching in Bombay. And so was Guru Puja. This is later, meaning that after Prabhupada left, so he was Guru already receiving disciples. And so people were giving petals, and he was giving sweets or something like that. So I see one Mataji coming, I think Westerner. And I saw her coming. I was paying attention. I think he said Gopal Krishna Maharaj was there or somebody else was there. So we were giving prasadam. And I saw her coming, and I saw something different. That wasn't a flower. She had a knife. She had a knife to open letter. You know those knives those. So she came up like this, and she went at him. So he held her like that, and then the devotees grabbed her, and then they took her away. It seems that she thought that Guru Maharaj was preaching to her husband to take sannyasi. So she was a little mentally unstable, like that. So he's telling me like, and it was just my thing was a little incident, and I was a little bit affected, but half the story already I was okay. But he kept, he forgot. He stopped like eating or something. He kept on telling me this thing just to make me feel okay, just to pacify me. So like that, I can believe me, I can talk for a long, long time about many, many stories, but it's getting a little late. So many things about Guru Maharaj being so personal, so caring, so heroic, so strong, unique. It's literally unique. I remember there was a survey. I had to go back to university to do some studies on counseling. And they were discussing about the characteristics of an ideal person. One of the questions was, think of the person that has the best and the most qualities, good qualities in your life that you heard, you saw a movie, a fiction person, whatever. And I remember I was thinking, thinking of different people. Somehow, because I was in that mood, university, karmi, things, I wasn't thinking of Guru Maharaj or Prabhupada. And then I couldn't find anybody. I really couldn't find. But then I said, of course, Guru Maharaj. And then all the qualities, caring, empathic, committed, sacrifice. Definitely he personifies someone that has the most qualities. Like Srila Prabhupada explains the qualities of Krishna. Then there are the qualities of Brahma, qualities of Shiva, the qualities of a demigod, the human being, the most. That. There is a verse that says, Sarvadheva Maya Guru, that the Guru represents the demigods. And that's because he has the most qualities. So it's not because he's, American born, or because he's so senior, or because he did Mayapur, finished Mayapur, or constructed Mayapur, or because he has done these. There's so many things we can think of. But the most important thing, at least my personal realization, is because he's the best person that has given me, at least to my fallen self, the best treatment ever that nobody has given me. And I see not only with me or with this one or that one, but I see with whoever he meets and whoever he can reach out. You may be the first time that you see him, but if something in your heart is saying, I want to serve Krishna, I want to serve Prabhupada, I want to go through this Swami and advance spiritually, believe me, he will put his handbrake and he will give you something. A cookie, or blessings with a stick, or some flower, or give you some of his time. Like that. He will do. And one time we were in the office, in his quarters, and we said, Guru Maharaj, this person is coming, and it's always problem. Please, just don't give so much time. You're getting late. for your dinner and for your rest and all that. And I have heard different things like this, but that night I remember he said it with a lot of intent. Like really, he meant it. He said, Prabhupada never rejected anybody. He said, right? Prabhupada never rejected anybody. He said, he never rejected me. Huh? And his voice started breaking. I could see. Right? So he controlled himself, and then he said, how can I reject all these people? He said, like, I heard things very similar, different times. But this time, it was just some time ago, last year perhaps. I thought, wow, that's really Guru Maharaj's heart. That he doesn't matter. You see, Prabhupada explains, the Shastras explain, the Guru takes part of our karma. So the more disciples he accepts, the more karma he gets. Yes? We know that. Prabhupada told him to accept 50,000 disciples. Anybody would think, okay, I did. He has many, many thousand disciples. I should stop now. I should retire now. I should take it easy now. But he says, no. Prabhupada gave me this instruction, gave me this mission, and I'm going to stop until the last minute. You know, Prabhupada came to London 2.5 months before he passed away. Prabhupada was in Rishikesh. He was getting treated, and he became ill. He went back to Vrindavan, and he was getting more and more ill. But he said, what is the point of being here? I'm just dying, doing nothing. I'd rather be in the field. Ramakrishna Maharaj immediately he took it up, and he said, Prabhupada, I will take you to America. And then Prabhupada became invigorated with that. And then Prabhupada came to the manor just 2 months before he passed away. Incredible. So, in other words, Prabhupada wanted to show the example that the last minute, somebody said in one Vyasa Puja of Srila Prabhupada, that Prabhupada, till the last drop of life that he had in this physical body, transcendental for us, of course, he preached Krishna consciousness. He practiced Krishna consciousness. He demonstrated Krishna consciousness. So Guru Maharaj is doing exactly the same. Exactly the same. How many times we have been in the hospital, right? 2013, then 2014, twice, then last year, then this year for Nityananda Trayodasi. Again, emergency. You know what it is to see Guru Maharaj coming out in a stretcher with an intubator, meaning a tube within his throat, right? Sedated sometimes, just to help him breathe. All the servants, all the devotees, all the assistants, our heart is like stopping. And then he is, and then put into an ambulance and taken to the airport and airlifted because he's not making it. So he has to be taken to Delhi because he's just not making it. Not once, but a few times. All right? So the last time I remember, this is in Nityananda Trayodasi. After that, he got sick. So he went to one hospital, and again, he had to intubate him. And when he was coming out, I thought, here we go again, that image of him and all the devotees crying and this and that. And he comes out. Because this is not his first time. I think it's his third time of being airlifted, if I'm not mistaken. Second or third? Anyway. Second, yeah. So he comes out, and we are there trying to push everyone because everybody wants to see him. And when he comes out like this. And then Guru Maharaj ki jai, Guru Maharaj ki jai. Then off he goes, and then the plane took him to Delhi like that. But that's his life. That's his life. One day with Ikshvaku Prabhu, we went and we told him, Guru Maharaj, we have to intubate you. And, we have to give permission to doctors, and we have to be airlifted to Delhi. And Guru Maharaj said, do whatever it takes so I can see the TOBP open. Do whatever it takes. You know, like Prabhupada often used to say, don't take me to hospital. I mean, Prabhupada was elderly. And Prabhupada would say, don't take me to hospital and the tubes and all that. You know, Prabhupada often said that. I don't want to. And he says, whatever it takes. Whatever it takes. Many disciples, senior people, will write to us and says, why are you doing this to Guru Maharaj? Take him to Mayapur. Take it to Vrindavan. I told Guru Maharaj, many disciples are criticizing us and saying, why are we tolerating, why are we allowing this? They don't know. Don't discourage them. Guru Maharaj doesn't matter what, he will do all what it takes for continuing at least some more time in this planet serving. But that is his mood. Truly a hero. Sacrifice beyond words. So I think I have to stop here because it's very, very late and I'm sorry for taking much more time. But
exactly 2 hours. We had Bhagavatam class, Bhagavad Gita classes, seminars for 1 hour, 1.5 hours. At some point we want to go to drink water, go to toilet. But today never, no one single drop. It's this Guru Maharaj nectar, keep on coming and coming. So this is the Guru Maharaj Katha. Thank you very much, His Grace. Ikshvaku Prabhu ki
Guru Maharaj ki jai.